Okay, so this is going to be our second day of studying illustrators and what illustrators do for books. Yesterday we looked at and realized that illustrators have style. They have a certain way that they prefer to create. Just like writers, we looked at how writers have different styles and ways that they like to create, along with poets. Illustrators are no different. And we looked at Brian Pinckney and we saw that he had a certain style. We could see all the pictures kind of fit together in a certain kind of way. And it's like that for many different artists. There are artists who are just painters. There are artists who are just sculptors. There are artists that just like to use a certain kind of material, and that is part of their style. So today, though, we're going to be looking at, and we kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday, but we're going to be looking at gaining new information from the illustrations and understand that illustrations can be interpreted in different ways. So, when you're reading a story, you can actually gain information from an illustration that maybe isn't necessarily said within the story itself. So it's basically using the pictures to help you understand the story, which we talked about a little bit yesterday. So you guys remember the butterfly. We did read this in our symbolism study when we were looking at symbols. So thinking about the illustrations in the butterfly, how does the art add to the meaning of the story? So how does the artist add meaning to that story, to the story of the butterfly that we read? Leslie?
It makes it easier to tell that she said that the rebel is, like, the girl is leaving.
Okay, so we can read, Leslie's saying we can read the emotions of the characters better because we have an illustration. So the artist is drawing more or less the emotions of the character in that part of the story. And it helps us to imagine how the characters feel. Okay, that's good. What else? Is there anything more? Yes, Marcos?
The butterfly means freedom.
Yeah, so remember we talked about symbolism, and the butterfly is a symbol for something. You'll notice that in the illustration, the illustrator made sure to include a butterfly. So maybe the illustrations can help us add meaning to the butterfly. Not the title, but the actual butterfly that's in the pictures and referenced in the story. So, in page 7 through 8, we get a text. Part of what is said in those pages is the tall, shining boots. How does the art add to the meaning of the story? The tall, shining boots. So does everyone remember this part of the story? Reckon? Okay, you remember it. So how does the art help add to the meaning of that part of the story? How does this art here help add to it? Because we read about it, right? We know what happens in this moment. The tall, shining boots. Zoe, would you like to help them out? Okay, so it's going to help you get maybe some of a scary feeling. Where are we getting that feeling of scaredness? Where is that coming from? Micah, where's that coming from? Yeah, if you remember from the story, the store owner gave candy to these kids, and they were enjoying it, and then they left. Then the tall, shining boots came in, and he's being dragged out of the store. So as you can see, you can't really see it as well, but you can see the boots, right, up in the top there. And so how are we communicating, like Zoe said, fear, concern? How are we seeing that in the illustration? How does the illustration add to the story, adding to this part of the story? Amelia?
Well, you can sort of see their reactions, where they're like, oh no, and you can see from their faces and their body language.
There we go, I like that. So we can look from the clues in the picture. We've got character emotions. That's helping us produce maybe concern or fear, right? From the illustrations, which is adding to the story. What else? Is there anything else that kind of creates concern, fear? London? Okay, so you mean like back here? Or hiding behind something? I think this is the street. So I don't know if they're hiding behind anything. They're walking away, and they were pretending to be cheerful when the boots were walking by them, the soldiers. And then they realized that they broke into that store and took the guy out. So I would say the other thing that produces fear is the men dragging another person away, right? They're just dragging them away. You can see maybe a little bit of violence there. So that can produce emotions too, right? And it's all coming from this picture. Of course, in the story, it says it, right? They came in, they grabbed him, they took him away. You can read it in the text, right? But when you put a picture to it, it adds a little bit more. It's adding a little bit more emotion to it, like you guys pointed out, like the feeling of fear and concern. Okay, this is page 29 through 30, and this is part of the text that was mentioned on that page. It seemed that Monique, Sabrine, and Marcel had walked for miles in darkness through the back alleys, avoiding street lamps. How does the art add to the meaning of the story? So how is this picture adding meaning to part of what's going on here? Daniel?
It shows that they're hiding.
Okay, so it's showing the hiding, which kind of fits with the text that I just read. Tate?
It shows how long they walk.
Sure, yeah, it can maybe show how long they've been walking. So the picture, so we can come to a conclusion the picture matches the text, right? That they didn't draw a unicorn over here and, something completely off topic, right? It fits the text, right? So we know that. We got that part figured out. What more does the picture add to the text? Zoe? Okay, so Zoe's saying if you look at the characters in the story, they are producing a certain kind of emotion. We see a lot of hugging here. We see they're up close to the mom here. Maybe they're showing some emotion of concern, right? So we can say that the picture is adding to the emotions, right? Adding to the emotions of the story. Wesley?
It's adding, the picture kind of looks like it's adding fear.
Yeah, you could say it's adding fear. How is it adding fear? What's the part that kind of makes you think like, ooh, that's kind of, maybe that's a concern or that could be fearful? What part of the picture is adding that? Micah? There you go, yeah. This car, this mysterious black, dark car, we can't see who's inside. We don't even know what the car looks like. All we know is just the shape of a car, and it's coming toward them, right? And here they are, and you can see Bob is kind of looking at the car, and we don't know what the car is, so that's producing concern, fear, right? Because they don't want to get caught, if you remember the story. So overall, the art in the butterfly shows the characters' feelings and reaction to events that happen in the story. The illustrations of a large fist in front of the child's face and the mother and the children hiding in shadows show fear, but also standing together, okay? So you guys did a good job pointing out, and that's what they were kind of wanting to do, was point out the emotions of the characters. So you can see that the illustrator did a good job sharing what you're supposed to be feeling in that moment of the story, based on the characters' emotions. Okay, so as you read today, take a sticky note and write down how the illustrations in your chosen book help add meaning to the text. And then you're going to put the sticky note on the whiteboard here. All right? So, questions? What, London? With no pictures at all?
Yeah,
If you'd like, you could you could maybe snag a book from over at the library, the class library real quick and just kind of sort through some pictures, maybe read a text, part of a text real quick and see how that picture matches up with the text. So you could do that real quickly if you wanted to. Tate?
Can you use your reading group book?
Yeah. Yeah, it says, as you read today, doesn't say exactly what book you're reading. So it could be your reading group book, if you would prefer. And you can use an illustration from there and show how it matches with the story. Adds meaning to it. Micah? Can you say that a little louder? Can you go on to Epic? Well, today is Tuesday, so we don't really use Epic on Tuesday, okay? So I would rather you use the stuff that we have in the classroom library. We have plenty of books that show illustrations, so it shouldn't have too much of a challenge with all of that, all right? So yeah, no need for Epic today. Also, as you're going through, you have your task list here. Reader's response is the new one. Today is Tuesday. We always do our reader's response on Tuesday. Just a reminder, 2 thinking stems, please. Okay, you're supposed to have thinking stems. So every time you write, you can say, it makes me wonder, I questioned. There's a lot of thinking stems. You need to pick 2 of them, and you need to write about them, and then put evidence to it, attached to it, all right? So I shouldn't see summaries. We're not summarizing what you read up to that point. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to use the thinking stem. And for those of you that are using thinking stems, good job. Try to think of beyond the same ones that you use every time, okay? Some of you have been saying it makes me wonder for like 4 weeks now. You know, I've been saying the same thinking stem, which is okay, but let's try to branch out to some other ones. All right? Okay, you guys can go and get your materials and we'll go ahead and start.